Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial where I will talk a little bit about db&wTools, and I'm going to talk about a specific tool called second unit. But first I want to mention for you guys that currently db&w have decided to pause the development of db&wTools, which means that if you join now, you are actually going to get all these tools for free. You need to join the Patreon and you need to sign up for the lowest value, which is $3. Once you have done that, you will probably get an email where you can download your version of db&wTools. But since it's paused, they will not actually take any money from you. So a good time to join. Second unit is part of that. It's a master plugin, which essentially acts like a poor man's very simple sort of multi-layer rendering system, if you want, by using different cameras. So that's what I want to sort of show to you guys now. So if I pop into Lightwave layout, I'm running 2020-03, as you can see. So here is my content. Let's turn on VPR so you can see what it looks like. So I have some form of sky and then some bushes. I have grass, ground, and then a soccer ball. And let's just pretend that I would want to render some of these things separately so I can put them in a compositing application and actually deal with that way. So what I want to do then is to open the master plugins here and search for second unit like that and add it. Okay, so let's think about what I want to do here. Well, let me bring that up because I need to open up the interface, of course. And as you can see here, it can store render range, limited region, object flags, I want that. Store preview range, store background, I want that. Store buffer settings, and store bone flags and light flags. All right, you have to read the manual to actually know exactly what these do. But store buffer settings is essentially per render camera that you create, you can have all of these things set up differently. It will store, if you have lens flare enable or something like that, it will store that setting. But an important thing here that I have set up already is that I'm going to save this as a multi-layer EXR file. And what I've done here in the path, you can see that I've actually set up so that I'm using %camera%, which means that it will take the camera name, create a folder for that, and then again using the camera name and then the sequence number. Okay, so that's the only thing that I've prepared for this to work properly. And in this case, this is a still frame, so it's not going to be animation. Animation, yeah, then you would want to use the save as a render camera. I will actually show that later on. But for now, we're going to focus on rendering a still image with a couple of layers, so to speak. So I've decided that the bushes and the sky is going to be the background, and then I want to have a grass ground pass and then a soccer ball pass. So that's essentially 3 passes. So I'm going to close the render properties here because we don't really need to see that. And again, I've set up second unit to store what I need to store. So first of all, what I need to do is to clone this camera. You don't need to clone the camera, but if you want the exact same camera view, of course, you would want to clone the master camera. So I'm going to clone it 3 times. And I'm going to rename them like this. Background. I'm going to name this grass. And this one is going to be soccer ball, like that. So right now, all looks the same, right? So let's click on background and you have to select the camera that you want to change. In this case, again, I'm just going to store object flags and store background. You select the camera first, the one that you want to fill with what you want to see in that camera. That's important. So I've selected that. Now I can say grass, soccer ball, terrain. I'm going to select child items and hit properties, go to the render tab and say unseen by camera. So now the background camera, the stuff that I just did is now stored to the background camera. So for example, if I select master again, you will see that, okay, that's the everything in one camera render. If I select the background, it's this. Perfect, right? So the second pass is the grass. So for the grass, what I would want to do is to, well, first of all, I want to select the bushes and the soccer ball. Do that. And then you say unseen by camera. But then what I also would want to do, and this is something that I know is only supported in 2020, according to Michael Wolf at least, and I trust him very much because he is the one who's developed this. Anyways, is if you bring up the compositing tab, because usually what I want to do is to render against a black background when I do things like that. And this toggle here, as well as the color here, can only be used in 2020. So keep that in mind. And then, so that's now the grass with the ball. It's casting some shadow here. That's nice. And then for the soccer ball, so I click on that. And for the soccer ball, I want to select the bushes, the grass, and the terrain. Selection, select child items, recursive, properties. I just closed it. Unseen by camera. And of course, I also want to use background color like that. So now if I actually go through these cameras, so we have the background, and you can see it's the background, the bushes and the sort of light here, or sky. We have the grass, it's just showing the grass, and I have the soccer ball, which is just the soccer ball, right? So what I can do now is just to select each of these and hit F10. So I do that, F10, and it's going to only render between it's just going to render frame 0 to frame 0, because I've already set that up. So that was the background. Now render the grass. And the soccer ball. Okay, so everything is done. So let's actually let me show you what it looks like in the content directory. So in the renders folder for this project, you can see that I have a background folder, a grass folder, and then an EXR in there, and a soccer ball folder. So let's start up Fusion. Okay, and then I'm just going to drag and drop in the background, and I want to import that as a solid alpha. I have the grass, and what you can see here is that it's not looking as bright as it used to do in layout or in Lightwave. So let me just add a color, brightness and contrast, and add a gamma here of 2.2. It should actually look a little bit more like what it does in Lightwave. Okay, and then let's bring in the soccer ball as well. And oops, we have a problem here, right? The soccer ball should be masked by the grass because it's like stuck into the grass, right? Right now it doesn't do that. So let's go back to Lightwave and think about how to set up a new path. So essentially what I want to do is I'm just going to clone this soccer ball camera, and I will name it to soccer ball mask, like that. And to make this render very quickly, I want to go into the object properties of the soccer ball and say matte object and completely white. And here is also an important thing. Alpha channel setting here and the alpha value cannot be stored. So keep this in mind now, because I need to do some work around here. I have the matte object here. Then let's select the grass and say not unseen by camera, but matte object black. So we get this. Now, if I do an F9 render of this, we can see that we can't use the alpha because the grass and the ball are sharing the same alpha here, right? But if we look at the RGB here, and if you look up here in this title here, when I actually am moving over, holding down my left mouse button, you will notice that it's not 100% white for some reason. Okay, so how do we solve this? Let's open the render properties here. Let's go to buffers and let's create a new custom buffer. I will call this soccer ball mask, like that. And let's just double check. So this is using the box filter. So let's just scroll down here, select this one, enable it, adaptive sampling, and set it to box as well. Just so everything is the same. Okay, and now if I shift click on the ball here, we open the surface editor and double click. So you can see here now on the surface we have something called soccer ball mask. So what we need to do is to take the ray type from this input, or ray weight I should say, not ray type, ray weight, and just drag it into there. And then over here on this one I do the same. Come on. Okay. And since this is something that I've now changed on the surface, what I need to do is to select the soccer ball, save current object, just so that it's stored, right? And now if I do another F9, we still have the same problem here, of course, but now we have a buffer called soccer ball mask. And here you can see now, if you look up here again, you can see that now it's 100%. So we can use this as a bitmap inside of Fusion. So I'm just going to do an F10 here. Yes. And now automatically a soccer ball mask folder was created, and we have the mask here. Okay. So let's jump back into Fusion and let's bring this one in here. So what I want to do here first and foremost is to go to the format, channels, and I'm going to select the soccer ball mask R on the red channel. Don't need to fill out the rest. And then I need to add a mask bitmap node. I'll drag this one in here, and on this one I want to use the red channel, and then I can bring this one into the mask here, and now we have solved that problem. So as you saw there, that was an animation that was rendered with these different passes and then composited it together inside of Fusion. And here's the basic thing. If I drag the time slider, you can see the motion here. You can also see that the DOF of the master camera here is sort of animated as well to sort of stick to the ball, to the soccer ball. For the other cameras, what I did, well, what you can do, of course, is to go to motion options and go into the controllers and limits and set up a constraint towards the master camera, but so that it actually moves the same way. But what I did was I was a little bit lazy, because it was much faster to select the master camera, go to save motion file, and just output that. And then for the other cameras, or one of the cameras, I just open the motion options again, but instead I added a nodal motion, and in that nodal motion I have the time lag node from Dennis Pontonier. So on that time lag node, I just loaded the motion file. So every time this scene reloads, it's actually load in the motions from this motion file. So then it was easy to just copy this and then select the grass, paste it, soccer ball, paste it, soccer ball mask, paste it. So that's how I solved the motion of all the cameras, so they actually do the same thing. And then for the DOF, I simply, if I open the camera properties here, what you can see here is I have the focal distance here is being animated. And then for the other cameras, what I did was to essentially set up a modifier here called channel follower, and it's following the and then I could copy this and then paste that to the other cameras. So that's essentially how I just made sure that all the cameras are doing the exact same thing based on what the master camera is doing. And now I've been having lots of talks with Michael Wolf regarding the save as render cameras setting here. It's not essentially designed for the way I want to use it, but you can use it, and it's just that you have to think about what you're doing. Because if I select the background camera here and then do a save scene as, and I'm going to go to the render scenes, and then I have the second unit animation background, so I will save over that one. What is happening in the scene editor here when I actually save this? You see that it's actually deselecting the camera, which means that you have to save the scene again. Or at least that was what it used to do. Let me double check actually to load that background scene. So I'm going to open the animation background. So let's see which camera is selected now. No camera is selected. So if I do a VPR, oh, it is doing that. Okay. That's by chance though. Usually what I do, if I go back and I'll open up my master here, just so we have, the thing is that you can't, every scene file that you save out essentially contains everything. So all of them are sort of a master scene, which is kind of cool. Because if you, for example, overwrite the wrong, let's say you want to save out a scene file for the background render, and you overwrite the grass, then you don't have to open the master scene again to sort of sort that out. So the best way to solve this is to essentially just so you just select the why is this okay, let me change this back to name. Okay, so we'll select the background camera here, then do a save scene as render scenes background camera, because this allows you to of course put these things onto a render farm or use a render queue. And when doing this way, maybe just disable this one just in case. So I'm going to go save scene as animation background, and you can see that it's having that one saved. So I select the grass and say save scene as animation grass, and then yeah, and you just do this for each camera, and then you can put that stuff on the render farm or on render queue or whatever. Now, one of the things that I've seen now with these really fast GPU-based render engines is that you try to. I've noticed that there is a tendency not to do compositing as much as you used to do with CPU-based renders, because they are so much faster than, I mean, all CPUs, right? But I still think that the idea of compositing should, I mean, you will shave off a lot of render time if you need to redo a certain thing. Instead of re-rendering the whole thing, you just re-render the thing that you changed. For example, in this case, it's a very good example. If I go into my master camera here, and I'm going to start VPR here. So let's just pretend that, okay, this is a shot, the client is happy, but the client actually wants this ball here, instead of the black patches, they want them to be red. Okay, let's just do an F9 to see how long time this takes to render. Like if I would need to render this because of a client change. And you should notice that I'm actually using a 64-core 128-thread computer here. So this is not a slow CPU by any means. It's actually faster, I've heard, than a 2080 Ti. So it's a really good CPU, but it costs a lot of money, of course. So as you can see, 2 minutes and 10 seconds to re-render if the client wants to change this color to, let's say, red instead. So if I compare that to just rendering the soccer ball, so that's 15, or well, let's say 16 seconds per frame to re-render, and then I just can composite it. So that's, the basic reason why I want to try to divide things up like this, because of changes. It's a personal thing. I don't expect everyone to do this, but it's, even if you're using GPUs, this is a good thing to think about. I think that second unit should work with whatever render engine you are using in Lightwave. So this is not just for CPU-based rendering. I'm pretty sure about that. But yeah, the high anti-aliasing settings. Let me go back to the master. Now I accidentally closed the render window here, but 2 minutes and 10 seconds, right? If I would do this and actually try to use adaptive sampling, so I will bring up the properties here and turn on adaptive sampling and say 1 to 56 instead, and hit render, it will actually be slower. Just wait and see. Okay, so now you can see that it's past 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And there we have it. So almost 1 minute longer render time by using adaptive sampling. And for animation, what I've noticed is that using brute force in Lightwave 2020 at least seems to be the best way to sort of sort this stuff out. So what I would like to do now, just to have fun with it, is to change the color of the soccer ball and do a new render for that. So what I'm going to do is to close this one down. I have VPR running. Everything is set up the way it should be. So let's just go for the soccer ball. And let's open the surface editor for it. I'm going to go open this one, and here is the color. So I'm just going to bring up the redness here. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, something like that. That looks good. Let me close this node editor and close the surface editor. I want to see what it looks like together with the grass as well. Maybe it's a little bit too much red right now. Let me tweak this a little bit more. Maybe down to 30. And see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So, of course, I've changed the surface. So what I would want to do is to save. Let's see here. Let me first select the actual object. The soccer ball. Save current object. And I'm going to call it soccer ball red. Oops. And I'm going to select this soccer ball camera, because I already rendered out the soccer ball as a black soccer ball, so I don't want to overwrite those renders. So what I want to do is to rename this one to soccer ball red, and let's just close down VPR. And also, yeah, I want to save scene as soccer ball underscore red. Oh, actually, what I want to do is to use the render farm, because I saved out the red here. So let's see, let's open the NRC controller. It's set up with everything. All the nodes are discovered as well. So the only thing I need to do here is to go to my content directory, projects, let's see, second unit right here, go to scenes, render scenes, and the animation, and not the grass, it's the soccer ball red. I want to use that one. And as you can see, the nodes are picking this up. So if I go to my renders folder, just now a soccer ball red folder being created, and everything is going to be outputted there. And as you can notice, my other machines here, they're not very fast compared to workstation 2, which is the one that I'm sitting at right now recording this. The other machines are about 10 times slower. Anyways, this should conclude second unit video tutorial. At the end of this, I will just put up the render where the soccer ball has red patches instead of black patches. It's going to be the exact same animation, but it's just instead of re-rendering the whole thing at almost over 2 minutes per frame on my supercomputer, I'm re-rendering everything in 15 seconds per frame on my supercomputer, which is nice. So yeah, I will put that at the end of this video. So cheers.